What is going on, my dudes? Lady dudes, welcome back to Just Nuts here. Guys, today we're looking at SHADDOLLS. All right, we just got the structure deck announced about, just over a week ago, confirmed. The OCG will be getting it in about early December. We won't be getting it till probably February-ish, maybe March. So we got a while, but I'm really excited to talk about it. We can definitely come back to it as we get more stuff revealed, more information, or we get more hype. I can come back to it, talk about it again. But I just was excited to look at the deck because I just get excited for like legacy support like this. So without further ado, SHADDOLLS. If you don't know, SHADDOLLS are a fusion-based archetype. A lot of big fusion monsters with some very powerful effects. And then in the main deck stuff, they deal with a lot of flip summoning effects. And then also they like being sent to graveyard by card effects. So let's jump into that. So before we start off with the monsters and all the SHADDOLL cards we have to offer, I want to talk about a few of the things the deck can abuse as far as like generic stuff. So the whole deck is dark. So like stuff like Allure of Darkness being like just dark, just letting you like cycle through your deck if you have to play a larger number of SHADDOLL monsters. There's other stuff with dark. Obviously, we know why dark is so good. There's stuff that there's spellcaster. There's generic spellcaster support that can be used. Dark Renewal is an interesting trap card to abuse. Stuff like that. And then also the fact that they can be sent to graveyard by anything, right? So Foolish Burial, Mathematician, Armageddon Knight, generic cards like that really help them to kind of turbo their effects and get them going. So I just want to throw that out there. I didn't want to spend too much time talking about like generic cards we kind of know about, but I just want to keep that in your mind when we're going through this stuff. Like, wow, this is all super abusable off of Foolish Burial and Mathematician as a normal summon, Armageddon Knight, all that stuff. What's it called? Allure of Darkness, letting you cycle through your deck much faster. So there's a good amount of stuff this deck can abuse. But let's start off with the monsters. All the monsters have two different effects. They have one flip summon effect, or one flip effect, not summon, and then one effect that when they're sent to graveyard by a card effect, hand, field, deck, however you send it, they can pop off in grave. So we'll start with Falco. I put them all in order of levels here. When he is flipped up, you can target one SHADDOLL monster in your graveyard and special summon it in face down defense position. I kind of wish this didn't do face down defense position specifically, but it is what it is. It's another body on board. If it lives to your next turn, you're going to be able to flip it up and get an effect while also having two monsters on board and be able to do something like that. And then its send to graveyard effect says you can special summon itself back in face down defense position. So it's a nice little like free body on board. He's okay. If he didn't special summon specifically in face down, he'd be much better, but definitely something to consider. SHADDOLL Hedgehog, when it's flipped up, you can add one SHADDOLL spell or trap card from deck to hand. And when it's sent to graveyard by a card effect, you can add one SHADDOLL monster from deck to hand. So this is like your main searcher. It pretty much makes Foolish Burial a Rhoda in the deck. And when he's flipped up, you're going to search your fusion spells, maybe a trap. They don't have like great traps. Maybe we will, but we'll see. But very nice search card. I like him a lot. Then we have SHADDOLL Hound. He's probably the worst one. When he's flipped, you can target a SHADDOLL card in grave and add it back to your hand. That's a nice little recursion effect, especially if the deck gets pretty fast. You'll be able to put a good amount of stuff in grave, then maybe this would be better. But when he's sent to graveyard by a card effect, you can target a monster on the field and change its battle position. You can't change flip monsters' battle positions because they only have one battle position, and that's really a weak effect anyway. So we probably won't even be playing Hound if I were to guess. Then we have SHADDOLL Squamata. When he's flipped, you can target one monster on the field, destroy it. It's targeting destruction. It's pretty slow, but it is a pop nonetheless. We see cards like Afterburner still being good. Just with that pop, just being able to pop something is nice. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send another SHADDOLL card from your deck to the graveyard. So this guy just allows you to load more monsters into your graveyard, or if you were locked into some effect where you have to like discard from hand, and you discard him because you didn't have the one you actually wanted to discard in hand, you could, as long as it's not his cost, you would be able to use Squamata's effect to send the one you actually wanted to send and then get the effect you actually need, which is pretty nice. I like him a lot. He's also 1800, so he is a beater. Always a fan of beat sticks. You guys know that. And then we go to SHADDOLL Dragon, another beater at 1900, level 4 again. When he's flipped up, you can target one card, period, face up, face down, spell, trap, monster, doesn't matter. Return it to the hand. I really like that effect. Obviously, it's the best against monsters, but, depends on the situation. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one spell or trap card on the field and destroy it. Really nice, just removal card. You're bouncing something, and then you also can just pop a spell or trap, pop floodgates that are problematic, whatever you need. He's really, really good. Then we go to Shaddolls Beast, the only above level 4 monster, so this is the only one that cannot be normal summoned. Keep that in mind because he can be a little bricky in the hand, but he has some solid effects. When he's flipped up, you can draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. Pretty nice. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can draw 1 card. So he is like the built-in draw power for the deck mainly. And he's just good. I mean, generically good. You kind of have to, like, weigh the pros and cons, and the fact that if you draw him, he's not that great. But if you do have a way to maybe discard him from hand for the effect, or send him from hand for an effect, you are going to be able to, like, get a nice just draw off of him, just replace himself, get a little deeper, that kind of stuff. And it's just really nice to send. And if you get that flip effect off, that's a pretty nice mini yugioh effect too. So there's all the monsters in the main deck. Then we go to the spells. This is the most abusive spell in the deck. It essentially is a polymerization for a Shaddolls monster, but as long as your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, you can just use the materials straight from the deck. So you can just send 2 Shaddolls straight from deck to make a window, and you get their effects engraved. Or send, if you have another monster, you have a light, an earth, a fire. Those are the other 3 main ones. You just send them with them. If they have effects that pop off, you get those too. Whatever it is, you're still abusing it. You're still getting out of a big monster, and you're also getting the effect of maybe a beast to draw 1 card, maybe a dragon to pop 1 card, maybe Squamata to send another to load your graveyard up. Whatever it is, you're still just getting pluses off of this card, which is really, really powerful. So Shaddolls Fusion, definitely something. They're one of the most abusable cards in the deck, but it's definitely better going second because your opponent needs to control that monster. So keep that in mind. Then we have Shaddolls Fusion. This card essentially is just polymerization, but it's a quick play for the archetype specifically, which is pretty nice, but unfortunately the deck doesn't get to this too consistently. If you could search this a little more consistently, then it definitely would be better. You definitely would, I don't know, it would just be way nicer utility than just, like, hoping you draw it. Like, the one thing about utility is it needs to be consistent. You need to be able to consistently get that utility when you need it, but because it's not searchable, it's not. So keep that in mind. We definitely would love an easier way to get this, like, more consistently. And then we have Shaddolls Fusion. This is a really interesting card here. So you can equip it to a Shaddolls monster when you declare an attribute, and that monster becomes that attribute, and then this card, while it's face up, can activate as like a polymerization to fuse, like, while straight up right there, right then, and then you just use the monster that you change its attribute to make any Shaddolls monster you really want. Unfortunately, it's like that same old regular polymerization of 3 for 1. You're doing like a fusion and 2 monsters just to get 1 monster, but it does allow you to access any monster you want that's in your extra deck as far as the fusions go, which is nice. So it's like utility and getting the ones you need, but it's a minus for the most part. Well, it depends, I guess, depending on what Shaddolls monsters you fuse away with. You could, get value back, fuse with a beast, get a draw card, make up one of those cards back. But still, it's an interesting card to say at least in terms of utility. Then we have Shaddolls Core. This is a weird card that summons itself as a monster, and then it can pretty much be a substitute for any attribute monster you would need to make a Shaddolls Fusion, which is nice. It's, again, kind of just like the last spell we just looked at. It just gives you an ease of access to all of the extra deck monsters you're looking for, and then also if it's sent to grave by a card effect, you can target a Shaddolls spell or trap in grave except for itself and add it back to hand. You're usually just adding back another fusion spell for next turn, which is nice. So Shaddolls Core, interesting card. I don't know how good it'll be. And the last trap I looked at was Sinister Shadow Games. It's essentially Foolish Burial, sending any Shaddolls card from deck to grave. Then you can change any number of face down Shaddolls monsters face up. So it triggers some face down effects. You could, flip a dragon and then bounce something. You could flip something and search something, draw some cards, whatever it is, those slow effects. But the main thing is just sending something to just get some nice effect, which would be really, really nice. But I feel like this card is probably just too slow for what the deck's going to want to do. But I think we should still keep it in mind, but I imagine it would be a little too slow. Then we move to the extra deck. We'll start with Shaddolls Construct, our new-ish, it's like well over a year old now, Shaddolls Construct, our Link monster. Link to the points left and right, which is what got a lot of people a little sour about it, but it takes 2 flip monsters specifically, which is a little rough. But during your main phase, you can fusion summon a Shaddoll fusion from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. So it just lets you just contact fuse essentially without needing the fusion spell, which is nice. And then if this card is in your graveyard, you can send a Shaddoll card from your hand or face up field for the graveyard. And if you do, special summon this card. So I imagine your goal is to try and make this, maybe fuse it off for a construct, and then revive this down below so that then it opens up 2 more zones. While also sending maybe a beast from hand to draw a card and get a little bit of advantage back, whatever it is. Should kind of open you up that way. The problem is you have to get 2 flip monsters on the field in 1 turn to make her, and then you're trying to extend past that. She's interesting. I feel like she may be able to work should the support be the right stuff. But I also wonder, is it right for Konami to try and make support centered around this card, or do they just divert away from this card saying, this card was a miss, we need to make some cards that are hits, so let's kind of deviate away from this card. We'll see, but I think it does have potential. We'll see where it goes. Then we move into all the fusions. So all the fusions need 1 Shaddoll monster plus 1 specific attribute as materials. They usually have 1 effect, and then they have a recursion effect where if they're sent to graveyard, generically you can target a Shaddoll spell or trap card engraved and add it to your hand, so you just get back a fusion most of the time, which is pretty nice. We'll start with Construct. This is the main boss monster of the deck. We just got it back on the ban list not too long ago, a couple months, but it's very, very good. When it's if this card is special summoned, you can send 1 Shaddoll card from deck to grave, so right there, really good utility, sending any of your monsters. And then at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summoned monster, destroy that monster. Essentially just making it able to remove any special summon monster, which is pretty nice. It's non-targeting, but it is destruction, so maybe that's a little iffy, but still really, really good. And then that recursion effect. Then we look at El Shaddoll Winda. This is one that's been semi-abused as of recently in Orcust and a little bit in Burning Abyss. It takes a dark monster as well. It's 2200, a little weaker, but I think they had to because of its effect. It cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effects, which is a nice little protection. And then each player can only special summon monster or monsters once per turn while this card is face up on the field. If this card is sent to graveyard, add back a Shaddoll spell or trap. This is an insane floodgate effect. I mean, essentially, this is just like, it's arguably a little better than Summon Limit. 1 special summon, maybe it's not better than Summon. The fact that it's a walking monster makes it a little better. How is somebody supposed to get over a 2200 monster if they can only special summon 1 time? If you're not playing True Draco, like, how do you deal with this? I guess Subterrors with the trap card could do it. But wow, this card is so powerful. I feel like should that 1 card be hit, it may just be this card because it may just be too easy to make in this deck, while also being just too generically like win. Like this card can just be game over for certain decks. Orcus, Thunder Dragons, Salamangreats, combo decks like those can just straight up lose to this card. If you go first and make this card by itself may just beat down for a win. Which is wild to think about. But yeah, definitely keep it in mind. El Shaddoll Winda. Then we have El Shaddoll Shekinaga, a big girl here. 2600 attack, 3000 defense, takes an earth monster. During either player's turn, when a special summon monster activates its effect while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, you can negate the activation if you do destroy that monster, then send 1 Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. So not only are you negating something, but you're getting the chance to trigger a Shaddoll monster effect in grave. Shaddoll card. It is also Shaddoll cards. If you do have extra fusions, you can send those too. You're just negating and destroying a monster effect, which is just really, really powerful. Definitely in the right matchup. A big monster like this that negates and destroys can definitely win you some games. And then that's a hard one to turn, so you can't do that a bunch, but still. And then also has that recursion effect. When it's sent, you can add a Shaddoll spell or trap card back, which is nice. So definitely another really powerful card to look at. Then we have El Shaddoll Grista, or Grista, however you want to say it. It takes 1 fire and a Shaddoll monster. 2450 in 1950. Weird stat lines, but okay. During either player's turn, when your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, negate the summon, and if you do destroy that monster, then send 1 Shaddoll card from your hand to graveyard. So this is essentially just like Shekinaga, but instead of negating a monster effect, you're just straight up negating the summon, which is pretty powerful as well. And that recursion effect as well. So he's pretty big and he just negates a summon. I think this card is definitely considerable. I'm not sure if there are weird rulings with this card. It is a when effect, so You know, depending on the situation, it may not be activatable. You may miss timing, but it definitely seems powerful. I'm curious about some of the rulings with this card, but yeah, it definitely is pretty powerful. Walking, I don't know. What am I looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Solemn Strike, but not the negate a monster effect. Just negate the summon. It's pretty good. I'm not complaining. Then I have the water one, 2700 attack, 2000 defense. They're all big, which is really nice. And this one, neither player can special summon from the hand or graveyard using spell or trap effects. That's not too crazy. Not many decks actually do that using spell or trap effects, so it's a little too specific for me. But maybe if we get a meta deck that has a bunch of spell cards that are just like monster reborns in the deck, or just like special summon straight from deck stuff. Oh, that's from deck though, so that doesn't apply to this. But I don't know, maybe there will be some meta deck that makes this card good, but for the most part I don't imagine this being very abusable. And the last one is a Wendigo. This one is actually really bad. 200 attack, 2800 defense, very defensive, takes a wind monster, which is good because winds are not in abundance. But during either player's turn, you can target one monster you control. This turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle with an opponent's special summoned monster. That's all it does. Makes you immune by battle, but you're already 2800. Like, there's a good chance you won't be destroyed by battle anyway. Just rough. It's just not great. So this is probably the one for sure you leave out. You probably also leave out the water one, but all the rest, all these other four are really good. Like, just foolish something, and then you can kill anything at the beginning of the damage step. Winda, just an insane floodgate. Shekinaga negating monster effects, and Grista just straight up negating summon. So these are the main four, which is good because you also have stuff like Ash Blossom, so you can make this with Shaddolls Fusion. You have stuff like if you play Ghost Ogre, I believe is Earth. Is Ghost Ogre Earth or Light? I want to say it's Earth, but it might be Light. You may have to look for something to send with Earth. If I can't remember if Ghost Ogre is. And then Winda being the easiest one to summon because the Shaddolls themselves are dark, so you can literally send 2 Shaddolls, get 2 Shaddolls effects in grave, and then also get this out, an insane floodgate. I definitely see this card getting hit in the future if Shaddolls become good, and then Construct being probably like the main one, just keeping your engine going while also just being a threat on the field. So guys, that's pretty much it. I think one of the biggest things is like consistency. You have all these Shaddolls monsters that you really realistically want to send from deck to grave. You don't realistically want to draw any of them. So I think one of the biggest things Shaddolls are looking for. Oops, sorry, I just bumped the mic. They're looking for some cards that really add value to drawing Shaddolls, like cards that really make drawing them much better. So you can play a higher number, arguably not like a crazy number, but like enough where like if you see them, you're not like, oh, I'm losing. You know what I mean? Because we already know how good just Shaddolls Fusion is, but we need to see, you know, the monsters help get an engine better. Or maybe we see some stuff like Subtears. Because they have flip effects, you don't really see those being too important nowadays, but maybe if they get some cards like, we have Hidden City that just flips up Guru and gives you a search. Maybe some like flip turbo cards that kind of work like that. To kind of speed up the process of getting their effects. Like you just set Hedgehog, flip Hedgehog that same turn 1, get yourselves a Shaddolls Fusion card, and then, you know, pop up from there. Get your fusions going. Put at least an intimidating monster on the board. That's what the deck needs to consistently do. We will see if they can do that, but for right now, you know, they're just like a package right now. You're looking at like people playing like Beast and Dragon with Shaddolls Fusion with, you know, a couple of the fusions in extra decks. So they're interesting to say the least. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I'm really excited to see what kind of support they end up getting in their structure deck. And yeah, clearly there's a popular archetype. So let me know. Let me know. I am by no means the authority on Shaddolls. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you know, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.